What's happening? How about a little shout out to Engineer Jeff for always keeping it fun?
Yep.
Joining. What's happening, Jeff? My man. Speaking of my man, we got Kevin Cadora back in the hot seat, Truth Radio Nation. By the way, Truth Radio, if this was a game show, the only thing you got to do to win this game is what?
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth, baby.
That's right.
That's exactly why we got Kevin Cadora of Fair Cadora APC. You can catch him, by the way, and all of his truthfulness over at Fair, F-A-I-R, Cadora, Cadora.com. Kevin and I are having a good little romp. This is our third romp, actually. One of the things Kevin is the best at, and I want to try to collateralize and harness this for Truth Nation, is that he, first of all, has a wealth of extensive information, not only being a active participant in our societal amazingness, but also, of course, in his private practice, helping families and folks get in or hopefully out of sticky situations. And also, lived through the OJ game.
That's right.
Lived through the John Benet Ramsey game. And now more contemporary, the Steven Avery.
That's right.
The Making a Murderer. This has been a story that has obviously caught fire all by itself. Everybody seems to have watched it. Everybody seems to have an opinion about it. And if you haven't, go over to Netflix. Make sure you catch that series. It is gripping. But what I want to do is do a little background on this first. So help me kind of walk through the story so we can get to the truth about Steven Avery.
Yeah, Steven Avery, I believe it was Wisconsin, and apologize if my facts are a little off. I guess we can fact check afterwards.
We'll have a little streaming ticker underneath
exactly,
with
exactly.
all things true.
He was convicted in the 80s or 90s of rape and murder, and this was before the DNA testing came out, and was later exonerated when the DNA testing came out and showed that he was not the one who committed the crime, and was released from prison. And
he was in the big house for a hot minute.
Yeah, I think he was. He spent some time there, and he was. I think he had a 25-year stench that he was exonerated for. Eventually, he got out, and then he brought a lawsuit against the county that had convicted him.
Right.
Wrongful conviction, and it was in the millions, tens of millions of dollars that he requested, and I believe he won the lawsuit. In fact, I know he won the lawsuit.
And by the way, quick asterisk is just to singe in this whole thing. The DA or whatever, like let's just say the law enforcement side of this, still believed that he did the first crime.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
That's a very important piece.
Very important piece. Despite the exoneration and being released from prison, they still believed it. Right. And then he filed a lawsuit. And coincidentally, when he won the lawsuit, I think it was within months of winning the lawsuit, there was a body found in the junkyard that he owned and operated. And the police, again, brought charges for, I think it's definitely murder, maybe rape, and convicted him, or proceeded to convict him. And anyone who's watched this show, it becomes clear that there's some shady business going on in the background. Or this government, the government, is engaging in some conduct here that's a little concerning, to say the least. Specifically the district attorney who was involved. And if you haven't seen the show, you really need to watch it, because when I look at this district attorney on this show, Making a Murder on Netflix, I mean, he is the epitome of shyster attorney. I mean, he when you look at him, you get this creepy vibe. And I'm an attorney, and I mean, this is what I do. And for me to say that as an attorney, that this other attorney, who's a district attorney, gives me a creepy vibe, I think says a lot about this person. And I remember when I was first watching the show with my wife, who's also an attorney, we were like, yeah, he's just acting for the cameras. He's just trying to further his career. Mm. And I mean, these crimes, they happen in a very small county, very small community up in Wisconsin. And, these types of deals or these types of cases can make or break, especially political careers of a district attorney. And this is the district attorney. He's a political official.
Right.
And you watch this show, and before the show, I had no idea who Steven Avery was. And you watch this show, and I think what blew me out of the water was when Mr. Avery's attorneys, his defense attorneys, went to the evidence locker where there was a DNA sample from the first murder, and they had kid gloves on, and they started opening it up. and then they took out the sample and the blood sample, and on the top of the blood sample there was a pin-size hole that looked like someone had used a syringe and taken it out. And I mean, this is a documentary. This is like live, like video of them doing this. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, because that's what they found.
I think America at the same time exhaled and said, oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, wow, because that's all they found at the scene of the second crime was blood.
That was everything.
Exactly. And, the whole fact that the police were there for several days, executing a search.
So, and by the way, just in case you haven't seen it, what that suggested was that somebody actually went into the vial of Steven Avery's blood, poked in a syringe, withdrew the amount needed, and went and placed it at the scene.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
In this sealed up evidence thing from the first crime.
Yeah, from the police department.
Yeah.
That's in a sealed evidence locker
Right.
that no one has access to. The
Air
public
quotes.
cannot get access to.
Right.
So you're sitting there, and again, and when I was thinking about today's show, I was thinking about this, and I was like, it's amazing. It is amazing. I mean, nothing is as transparent as you may think, especially in law. And with our first segment, we were talking about the money manipulates the system. Money can manipulate justice. This, again, I don't think really ties into the money, but it shows the prosecutorial misconduct, the prosecutorial corruption, and the things that people will do in order to, further a career, to make money, whatever the case may be. It is staggering, and it flows both ways. It flows both ways. I mean, if you have the money, like in O.J. Simpson's, you can manipulate the truth. If you're the government or the district attorney, you have the power. You have the resources to manipulate the truth. You have the ability to manipulate justice. And it's actually quite scary. I mean, it's almost like the Gestapo back in, the Nazi area. And it's like you have this government that can, do whatever it wants. But again, on the other hand, you have, these wealthy people that can do, things to manipulate the truth.
Or with Steven Avery's case where he's broke, he's poor,
Yeah.
he owns a junkyard, and can't defend him. That's a flow both ways. That's what I understood from that comment, the flow both ways.
It flows both ways. I mean, the government has unlimited resources, the wealthy have unlimited resources, and then, where does the other 95% of the population lie?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have money, I mean, where does that lie? Or where do you lie in the whole grand scheme of things, be it, criminal law or family law or probate law? If you don't have the money, are you afforded justice? Maybe not.
The other part of that, which was a tragedy, is the nephew.
Yeah,
who totally came off as not all there.
He was borderline retarded.
Yeah, he's let's just say slow. I don't even know if that's the correct way of saying that. Just obviously you could tell there wasn't and then you take these people who are masters at the art of interrogation. And when I mean masters, I mean in a gross, insidious way, where they will force a confession. And if you don't think that's possible, or if you imagine yourself being innocent and you can't imagine that somebody would do that to you, go back over, watch the documentary, and watch how they literally implant, like a surgeon, all of the things in his brain over the course of the show that he eventually confesses to that weren't there in the beginning. You can actually watch the brain shift to where he starts to begin to believe what they say. That's not because he decided he wanted to have a moment of truth. That's because they did that to him.
Exactly.
And the forced confession thing through interrogation is about as creepy as it gets.
And I agree. And a little free advice to anyone who's listening out there. If you're ever interrogated by the police, there's only one word that you should tell them. Lawyer.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, and that's no joke, dude. I don't care how innocent you are.
No, their job is not to seek truth. Their job is not to enforce justice. Their job is to get convictions and to arrest people.
And before you think that you can go, oh, well, that's a forced interrogation and it's not going to hold up in court. BS. 80% of confessions through interrogation hold up in court.
Yeah. Was he under duress or coercion, or did he feel like there's so many loopholes that we as attorneys are trained to use when we go to court Yeah, I mean, granted, I'm not a criminal defense attorney
Right.
or a prosecutor, but I've read the cases that do allow that. So,
And that's a good point too. So not to but like I'm curious. Like, so that's great. We know that. That's fine. It's crazy. It's bummer. All this stuff. But how can you and I, or average Joe or Jane, listening to this right now, how can they take that truth and actually have it be something where maybe with a little bit of help from Captain over in the chair right now, can have that not happen to them? Like you already mentioned the lawyer up thing, if you're being interrogated. What are some other insights that we can get out of this lesson?
Well, I think a couple of things here. Like I mentioned before, I think lawyers, for the most part, are noble. They want to help people. That's why I became an attorney. I think it's important for everyone, especially in this society, in this day and age, with everything that's going on in the world and in this country. I mean, having a good attorney that you can trust and you can confide in, who's not going to take money from you, is very, very important. Be it for a criminal matter, be it for a family law matter, be it for a business transaction. It's very, very important to have good, sage advice in your corner. Otherwise, you're going to make decisions that ultimately could affect your life forever. I mean, the Steven Avery show or the documentary is a prime example of that. So, I mean, if you don't know of an attorney, we at Fair Cadora, we know business attorneys, we know civil attorneys, we know criminal defense attorneys. If we can't help you, we will direct you in a direction.
Yeah, you guys, you're like mavens like that. You've got like a little hot sheet of folks that you can kind of. So it's almost like you're the quarterback of a good conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, if we can't help you, we'll find someone good who can.
Yeah.
And I mean, and these are people we trust. These are people that will not spit on your cupcake and call it frosting. They're not going to take your money unless there's something they can do for you.
Giving you a point for that one. Yeah.
So
yeah. And so by the way, so what's a great way for them to get in touch with you in case that's something that they need for themselves?
Best way to contact us is via phone, 619-255-8500. You can go to our website. It's www.faircadora.com. That's FAIRCADORA.com.
Appreciate that, Kevin. And gang, we're going to do it this. By the way, this is ESPN Radio, so we'll get you guys caught up during our little halftime break here with a little sports update from our gang over at CBS. And then coming up, we're going to get into all the TV justice shows, right? So Judge Judy, Divorce Court, Boston Legal, LA Law, here we come. And why Law and Order might just be the one that deserves your attention. More with Kevin right after this.